Are you thinking about getting your first tattoo? If so, you're probably imagining the worst. The pain, wondering if you'll see the design first, what if you don't like the tattoo, what to wear, or whether your artist will even explain how to heal the tattoo. Well, I've been tattooing for 20 years and I can tell you this. If you go to a reputable studio, it's like nothing you've read online. Every client I tattoo ends up comfortable and relaxed once I talk them through the process, and that's what I'm doing today. I'm going to walk you through exactly what I tell them. In this video, I'm going to explain in detail what happens from your first inquiry to when you leave with your new tattoo. And at the end, I'll share one of the most important things that makes every nervous client relax instantly. This is one mistake almost everyone new to getting tattooed makes, including myself when I started, and it's so easy to avoid, yet it's the reason that so many people end up regretting their first tattoo. The very first step in the process is to spend a bit of time doing some research. Not only do you need to find a tattoo studio that has a reputation for doing good work, but you also need to check online portfolios to find the right artist for you and the style of work you want. So you might be thinking, how do I find a tattooist whose work is good and matches the style I want? Well, you would think with so many tattooists nowadays it would be easy, but with so much choice, the process is more confusing than ever. Word of mouth is a great place to start, but a word of warning. A lot of people will recommend a tattooist based on how cheap their tattoos are, and unfortunately, not for the quality of their work. I'll say it again until I'm blue in the face, and I know a lot of people don't share this sentiment, but cheap tattoos are always bad tattoos. So in theory, let's say you're looking for a realistic portrait of your daughter, although the same goes for any style. But whatever the style, it's not something you want to be taking a risk with. For example, I recommend jumping online and googling realistic portrait tattoos. Start with artists in your local area. But if you can't find what you're looking for, expand your search and be willing to travel. Once you've found an artist you like the work of, it's now time to do the scary bit and make contact with them via their preferred method. They will very likely have links on their social media or website to a simple contact form. Share your ideas, the size, the placement, and any reference you have. In the case of this portrait, it might be a few different photos of your daughter, but the same goes for any other style. This gives your artist of choice a good idea of the sort of tattoo you're looking for. The artist or shop manager will respond to your inquiry usually within 24 hours. You'll then be offered an appointment, and this part is really important. A non-refundable deposit will always be required. This is to cover the artist for the design work they do prior to your appointment, and also for any financial loss should you fail to attend your appointment. A pro tip and a gentle word of warning: never book an appointment and part with your deposit money unless you have every intention of getting tattooed. By the way, I'm curious to know, have you booked your first tattoo yet? Or are you still in the research phase? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know where you are in the process. So the hard part's done, you've found an artist you like and you've paid a deposit, you're committed and the big day's finally here. But now it's time for the really scary part, and you're thinking, what actually happens next? How early should I get there? What should I do to prepare? Fuck, I feel nervous. Following these next steps and arriving prepared will guarantee your appointment will go as smoothly as possible. On the day of your appointment, you'll want to be sure that you show up on time. Not mega early, certainly not late, but 5 minutes before is perfect. Make sure you're fueled up and eating a big breakfast on the morning of your appointment and you had a proper night's sleep. Being tired or hungry are the two things that make the absolute biggest difference to how well you sit, which affects both the artist and how much you feel the pain. It may sound obvious if you've been tattooed before, but make sure you wear comfortable clothing that gives easy access to the area being tattooed. For most of my clients, that looks like a hoodie, tracksuit bottoms, and even slippers for some of them who appreciate the finer things in life and are in the chair for the day. This goes without saying, but it does have to be said because, well, there is a chance you could be sent away and lose your deposit if you don't show up clean. Please, 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 make sure you shower the morning of your appointment. This one will take a little more foresight, but make sure the area you're getting tattooed is not burnt by the sun. If so, a kind artist might reschedule your appointment, and again you might forfeit your deposit. And a not very nice artist will just tattoo over that red raw skin. And trust me, you will feel pain like you've never felt before. Unfortunately for some, the days of tattooing with no gloves and a cigarette in the mouth are long gone. Come to your appointment sober, with no alcohol or drugs in your system. But surely 1 pint before my appointment to calm my nerves won't hurt, Mr. Tattoo Guy? Well, booze and drugs thins the blood, which means you will bleed like hell and make it harder for the tattoo to heal well. One thing I always tell my clients is bring a small snack and a bottle of water along to the appointment. It helps keep energy levels up, which can be especially helpful for larger tattoos or longer sessions. So you're organised, well fed, and arrived at the studio, not stressed or rushing around, and you're 5 minutes early. You're still a little nervous and eager to see what the tattooer has designed and get in the chair, but there is still a few formalities before the big moment. You'll be offered a drink and asked to fill out a consent form. These vary a little from shop to shop, but it's standard practice to make sure you're a good candidate to receive a tattoo. It's basically a legal health questionnaire that confirms you're over the legal age and you consent to the artist tattooing you. In short, it will ask if you have any medical conditions, if you're taking any medications, and if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, amongst other things. On more than one occasion, I've had to ask women if they're pregnant or not after they've filled out a consent form. Now all the boring legal stuff's out of the way, the fun can start. Up until this point, you still haven't seen what the tattoo has drawn for you, and you're desperate to see the design. But it is worth noting that this is common for most tattooers, for reasons I won't go into now, but it's not standard practice for an artist to send out a drawing to the client before the day of the tattoo. So this is your opportunity to make sure you're 100% happy with the drawing, and if you're not certain, make sure you tell your artist so they can make the alterations. Provided the details of your design were properly discussed prior to your booking, in my experience, it's highly unlikely you'll need to ask for any major alterations, but the design can be tweaked, or alternatively, if you agreed at the time of the booking, your design may need to be drawn straight onto the skin. This is the point that everything starts to feel very real. Your adrenaline starts kicking in, a mix of nerves and excitement that hits when your artist calls you round, and you realise it's actually happening. This feeling is completely normal and part of the process. Your artist set up their workstation and machines, the design's finalised, and the stencil's ready to go. So the first step of any tattoo is to prep the skin and apply the stencil. The artist will know roughly where you want the tattoo, but this is the point where you'll explain in detail where you want the tattoo placed. Once you've both established where the tattoo is going, the area will be cleaned with soap, shaved and rubbed down with alcohol. This will get rid of any stubborn dirt or grease in the skin. Once the area is completely clean, then the artist will apply the stencil. A very quick tip for blokes. Please don't try and be helpful and shave before your appointment, unless you're a cyclist or auditioning for RuPaul's Drag Race. It never seems to end well. And as you could imagine, trying a tattoo around shaving cuts is a nightmare. When the tattooer has placed a stencil where they think works best based on the placement you told them, you will then be asked to check in the mirror to make sure the placement is right. Now this part's really important because once you agree, there's no going back. Once it's slightly higher, lower, rotated, now's the time to say. But also be prepared to listen to your artist and potentially compromise if they suggest placement isn't quite right or needs shifting a little. It's important to remember that the tattooer is bringing their experience to the process and is there to guide you on their professional opinion. If you want the tattoo moving slightly, but the artist suggests otherwise, it's worth listening to the reasons why. The last thing a good tattooer wants to do is send you out the door with a well-applied tattoo that doesn't really fit the body properly. So now the stencil's in its final position after a few adjustments, it will need a few minutes to dry. So now is a good opportunity for a last-minute drink or use the toilet before you get going. So this is it, the moment you've been waiting for. You hop onto the bench, nervous but excited. You're thinking, is this going to hurt? What's it going to feel like? Will I even be able to finish the tattoo? What if I pass out? A million thoughts hit you at once. The artist says, I'll start with a small line, and if you need me to stop, just let me know, and stay completely still. They pull that first line and you realise it's nowhere near as bad as you thought it would be. You see, a lot of people new to getting tattooed really worry about the pain. And although it's good to expect that it's going to feel uncomfortable, obviously it's needles puncturing the skin at 150 times per second. It's generally very manageable and is more of an irritation than anything. Just take steady breaths, be calm, and you can always ask for breaks if you need them. I've gone over this before in previous videos, but being tense will just make things feel worse. Think about it like this. If it was as bad as websites and friends make out, why would the majority of people be tattooed? There are various methods of doing a tattoo, but I'll explain the process and give you a general overview of a basic tattoo. The artist will start by doing all the outlines first, then all the grey shading if it's a black and grey tattoo, and if it's a colour tattoo, then they will start with the blacks or the darkest tones first, before moving on to the lighter ones. If you have a kind and considerate tattooer, like me, I'm very considerate, then they should be checking in with you and asking how you feel every now and then. Communication is key. If something feels uncomfortable or you're in a lot of pain, speak up and your artist can make alterations in how you're positioned, or at the very least, be aware that you're struggling and offer to stop for a few moments. So now the tattoo is finished. Congratulations, you have your very first tattoo. And better still, it hurt nowhere near as much as you thought it would. You feel a huge sigh of relief, but what happens next? Well, your artist will wrap your tattoo up in dermalise or cling film and explain exactly how to care for your new tattoo while it heals. You will most likely be given an aftercare form, and following these instructions to a T is essential for smooth healing and a great looking tattoo. Now, I'm going to tell you, a lot of people mess this part up and end up with a tattoo that heals like absolute crap. Don't listen to your friend and do exactly what your artist tells you. And during the healing process, if you've got any concerns, contact the shop you got tattooed at for advice. Don't head to a Reddit thread and ask thousands of people who all have an opinion but lack the knowledge or experience. Trust me, I've heard and seen some wild things about healing tattoos in my time, and it's always when a client goes rogue and gone against their artist's recommendations. During the first couple of weeks, your tattoo will lightly scab, then peel and finally itch you. This is all completely normal, so don't panic, give it time to heal and settle into the skin properly. You'll have a tattoo that you're over the moon with, and soon enough be planning your next one. So that's the tattoo process in 5 simple steps. But before we wrap things up, I promised I would share a tip to help the most nervous people relax. It sounds silly, but communication's everything. If you're unhappy with the design itself, the placement, or you're struggling with the pain, then make your artist aware of this. If they don't know, and you don't make them aware, then they can't change anything for you. If you've done your research and you see a reputable tattooer, then that artist's priority is you and the service you get. All they care about is you walking out of their tattoo shop over the moon with your first tattoo. If you got value from this video, I would really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button. And if you're new to getting tattooed, maybe check out the other videos in this series. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.